This week on Worldwide Gaming, I review Defense Grid 2. We look at the top 10 game crossovers. We meet up with Jamie Wilson from Nintendo at PAX. And across the expo hall, I interview the guys from Particulars.
Hello and welcome to Worldwide Gaming. I'm not Ryan.
I'm Lysander.
And I'm not Vince.
So today is kind of more of a throwback to PAX. We have a few interviews in there. What did you think of PAX overall?
Well, you might have noticed that there's a lot of PAX content throughout the last couple of weeks and in the next couple of episodes. And that's because PAX has grown a lot. We went the first year and it was kind of alright.
I heard it was a little bit quiet compared to this year.
Yeah, this time they brought it to a new place, the Melbourne Convention Centre, and it just pretty much everything about it just got better. What about you? You went as well.
I went as well. I was amazed. There was just people everywhere, cosplayers, people trying to show me their stuff, trying to sell me stuff. I don't know, it was a great atmosphere.
Yeah, it's nice going to an expo and being able to sleep in your own bed afterwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, well, now it's time for the forecast.
The upcoming 2.5D shooter Hollow Point is looking fairly interesting. Coming to PC and PS4 in 2015, it puts players in charge of a group of corporate mercenaries alongside 3 other players in co-op. We give it a 1. This new RPG by Paradox, Runemaster, is coming to PC and PS4 soon. We haven't really seen enough of this game yet to say too much about it, so we're giving it a 1 for now. The next Roller Coaster Tycoon game, Roller Coaster Tycoon World, is looking like it could be alright. After the abysmal mobile game, we're struggling to get excited for this one, coming to PC in 2015, so we give it a 0.
Well, about those raspberry...
Oh god, not that again.
I assure you this could be essential to our victory.
Raspberries?
I've always had a soft spot for the pure strategy you get from tower defense games, and the sequel to the widely praised Defense Grid Awakening definitely doesn't disappoint. Along with the varied enemies and customization options, Defense Grid 2 will thoroughly scratch any tower defense itch you may have had. In Defense Grid 2, you play as the commander of a team of AI as you defend multiple worlds from an alien invasion. You'll fly to multiple planets with many varied locations, and Defense Grid 2 does an excellent job of making each location unique, using the environment you're in to create the paths the aliens take. For example, one mission had me on a planet colonized by humans, and used a spiraling highway for the aliens' path. The attention to detail on such a small feature shows why hidden path entertainment are so popular among gamers. Throughout your travels, you get small snippets of story through conversations between your team, and codex-like entries during loading screens. The two different methods feel a bit disjointed, and a bit hard to follow along with. And although some dialogue is quite funny, the delivery of it can seem a bit odd. The voice acting itself is fine, however there are sometimes large, noticeable pauses in between lines that come off as really awkward. It's especially weird as the rest of the game's presentation looks like it's had a lot of care taken with it.
Investigate the raspberry memories. I believe they may hold the key to... What? Something.
In Defense Grid 2, you must strategically place towers around a course to defend your core from waves upon waves of alien minions. Nothing new if you've ever played a tower defense game before. The game sets itself apart with many layers of customization to allow for a range of strategies to set up your defenses. By playing through the game you'll unlock new commanders, each giving you an orbital laser ability that can turn the tides of battles, towers, and augments to increase things like burn damage or single target damage on specific towers. All of these components combined make it really satisfying when you configure impenetrable death traps in game. Although the first orbital laser ability you unlock is so overpowered there isn't much reason for you to experiment with any other abilities. The game does a fantastic job of making such a simple concept interesting over the 20 or so levels in the game. The game has many different types of enemies that are weaker to particular towers, and the layouts of each map can change drastically. Some levels will allow you to create your own path through them by using your towers to block entries and exits, and some levels will have 2 paths and cores which you must take care of separately, and so on. The game also scores you on a bunch of different criteria and ranks it against your friends on a live graph, catering to my competitive side. And luckily, since you can play in many different ways, with over 15 modes and levels of difficulty on each level, the game oozes replayability. Oddly, the game includes both competitive and cooperative multiplayer modes that are actually quite fun. The most interesting being Defense Grid Fighter, that has you play a map simultaneously with another player, and any enemies that you defeat on your board are instantly transported onto your opponents, and vice versa. Not only have they implemented a mode that I would never have thought would have worked in a tower defense game, it's actually really well made. And even though I've had to wait a very long time to actually find a match at times, with some games taking half an hour to find, you can play any single player mode while you wait without losing any progress. Tower defense games are a dime a dozen and rarely are as evolving or interesting as Defense Grid 2 is for the genre. The fact that they've included functional multiplayer makes Defense Grid 2 one of the best tower defense games I've ever played.
No, it isn't.
Well, that sounded correct.
No, it doesn't.
Now you're just being difficult.
So Defense Grid 2 is not like your typical medieval tower defense games, because the only tower defense games I've really seen have either been medieval or things along that line, but it's space age stuff. Have you played much of it?
I haven't played a whole heap, but I definitely started it, and it was one of those games you kind of like, I'm definitely going to go back to that at some point.
But you never got around to it.
Well, I didn't get around to it. There are other things that happen.
There's still time.
Dota.
There's still time.
But you obviously know a lot more about it than I do.
Yeah, I played a bunch of it, and it's really fun. You just fly to different planets. Like I said in the review, the way that they incorporate the environment you're in into like the actual paths that the aliens take, it does really cool stuff with that. Sometimes it can get into the kind of thing where you just put a bunch of meteor towers down, but there are harder difficulties where you can't actually do that.
So are there options on the different narrator accents, or does it just change over time?
No, there's a whole story to it, and there's a bunch of different AIs that I won't get too far into it, but they kind of get corrupted and then...
Stay tuned, because after the break we have the top 10.
Hey guys, enjoying the show? If you want to see what the WG crew are doing, check out our Facebook. Also on YouTube we have extended cuts and also previous episodes if you missed out on some. Lastly, if you're into podcasting, check us out on WGcast on iTunes.